Hello everybody, thank you so much for being here. I am Răduţ, your host at this event today, an event organized by Netherlands Romanian Chamber of Commerce. The main theme we will debate today together with my speakers. It is business strategies for decarbonization. It is important task to understand more about sustainability, to understand more about business and sustainability. I will start now presenting the speakers, and after that we will start the talk together. First of all, the ladies. Alexandra Maier, Sustainability and Corporate Social Responsibility Manager, ING Bank. Thank you so much for being here. Alua Amirova, Strategy and Corporate Affairs Director, Rompetrol. Here, next to me, Răzvan Răduţ, Country Sales Manager at France KLM, Romania, Bulgaria, and Republic of Moldavia. And last but not least, Răzvan Copoiu, General Manager, Signify, Romania, and Southeastern Europe. Thank you all of us for being here. And we say a warm hello to those who are online with us today. First of all, a general question for all of you, and maybe you can start answering from here, Răzvan.
Yeah.
First of all, about this journey, how this journey began, and this decarbonization strategy, why and how and when it all started.
Yes, indeed, it was a journey.
And it is a journey.
It was,
it's not
it
finished.
is, and it will be a journey, yes. The official statement of the group Air France KLM tells us that the preoccupation for sustainability and for decarbonization dates back 30 years almost, when the group was not existing as such as it is today, because the group it was founded only in 2004. But like separate airlines, Air France started to put themselves the question, what we are doing, it is okay. Of course, the level of the public debate of the sustainability was not at the same intensity like today. But time flew, and we are now in 2022, and a lot of question marks are in front of us. And it's not necessary for the present, because the air transport might surprise you, but it's responsible, it's accountable for only 2-3% of the total CO2 emissions. But the problem is that the air traffic, it's increasing, it's developing, and the forecast is that it will be it will increase by 2030 three or four times, and of course we should be responsible for the next generations. Yes, sustainability it's a core concept with us. What steps did we make? I would say small steps, but important, because it's not so easy. It's not so easy. People need to fly, cargo needs to be transported, so it's a necessity. But can we do this in a more efficient, in more responsible way? The answer is yes. For sure, this is the reason for why we are here. I will go into details during during this meeting, but I just want to say that what we did so far, we started to invest in a more efficient fleet. We start to be close and to support the production of sustainable aviation fuel. And also we are preoccupied by reducing the emission of CO2 that we are producing. And I will detail further on during our meeting.
Alexandra, please, what is the strategy for ING Bank?
This can be a very long answer, but I will come with the reason why. And it's obvious that for a bank it's extremely important to keep the balance between the progress of the economy and the adaptation to the new conditions. So practically, this also meant that in the how question, it was a journey. And okay, I think we have similar trajectories between companies. Around 25-30 years ago, there were the first questions on, okay, let's look at what is our impact, the first climate report. Then the policy came, the policies with the environmental social risks, how are we looking at our clients, our suppliers. The past 5 to 10 years were the most intense, meaning that in 2017, with the Terra approach, which is a scientific methodology that tackles the most polluting sectors of the economy, we have started to look on how we will finance for the future. And today we are at a turning point, I would say, in the past year actually, of embedding the topic in the business, in any area of the business.
Alua, also a big interest for Rompetrol. When did this journey begin?
Yes, historically, KMG Rompetrol, it was traditional oil and gas company, with our shareholder being a national oil and gas company of Kazakhstan. So the priority was in the oil production, increasing exports, and increasing vertical integration. That was the main priorities. And our strategy, it was basically naturally aligned with the strategy of our shareholder. Of course, operating in different legislative environments here in Europe, we felt the pressure, the need and expectation of society and stakeholders to start this energy transition journey. But I guess last year, 2021, was pivotal in this sense that after the Fit for 55 package came out, where EU reconfirmed its intention and commitment to reach carbon neutrality by 2050 with a stricter measure, more ambitious targets. I think it was like the last ring for all companies in different sectors, like if you do not act now, there is basically no future. It will be difficult to survive in the business. So last year we initiated development of decarbonization strategy. It was approved at our board. Of course, historically we had the CSR. It's very important direction for us. And we implemented different social and environmental initiatives for our stakeholders here in Romania. But now we have development plans in more, let's say, in the decarbonization area, which we'll discuss today.
Of course. And Răzvan, it's all about the lights. And what's the history about the decarbonization
Yes, thank you for
process?
saying history, because actually I think the journey started like 130 years ago. Signify, it's a young company. Let's say the name appeared in 2018, but actually the official name was until then Philips Lighting. And at that time, 130 years ago, we built the first factory of light bulbs. And since then, even without LED appearing, we also was the first to introduce recycling, recovering the famous bulb lights, yeah, and bring it back to the recycling, because actually inside there are some toxic waste. And also in Romania, for instance, 2007, we created a local company, NGO, who is now the biggest in the country, called KLM. And also we are recovering and we recycle and recover the products from the lighting industry. But a very important point in our strategy started actually 2016, when we created a program specifically for sustainability. It was designed actually to reach, if possible, zero carbon footprint. It was a name, in my opinion, quite interesting. So brighter lives, yeah, better lives. And my opinion is that in this, let's say, moment, it was the most important one, because we created the direction and the KPIs and everything. I will detail later. And in the end, in in 4 years, September 2020, we were able to reach zero carbon footprint. Very simple points just to say, and we will detail later what means this. We made clearly energy efficiency. This is the most important one. The cheapest energy is the one that you don't produce actually. And then we use as much as we can renewable energy. It's the one that is the cleanest, the sun, and not only. And also we try to use more recycling and circularity, reducing transport and everything, trying to reduce as much as we can our footprint in the market.
Also a general question, how did your company approach the decarbonization process? The same order. Răzvan, please.
Yeah. First of all, we have to make a plan. We have to
It's the start.
It's the start, exactly. To put some targets and to follow them closely up. So we have three levers mainly in the group Air France KLM for decarbonization, and these are reducing and removing. Reducing means reducing either the direct emission of CO2, which are accountable for 83 to 85% of the total, so it's the biggest part. Reducing the indirect emissions, because it's a 360 view, and we are looking also at our customers, at our clients, at our business partners, service providers, and so on. So we want also on this part, on the indirect, so indirect emission are CO2 emissions non-related to the flight, but of course necessary for the whole process, for the plane to take off and for the people to travel. And last but not least, it's remove the CO2 from the atmosphere, remove the CO2 that are produced either by flying or by indirect processes through some international large projects, mainly for reforestation. Because yes, we have to use the nature, which is the natural way, the natural way to transform the produced CO2, not only for the air transportation but for every industry, into something useful for the mankind.
Alexandra, what about ING? Also about customers.
Absolutely. For a bank, naturally, the biggest impact comes from financing. Therefore, the key strategy is related to how we are steering our portfolio, our financing portfolio, towards the the Paris Climate Agreement objectives. And here you have a clear plan. I was mentioning earlier the Terra approach, and for each sector, most polluting sectors, there are targets. On the other hand, we need to practice what we preach, and although the impact of our own operations cannot compare to a company that is in a different sector, still there are important factors there. And for this part of the strategy, we are measuring every 6 months our impact in business travel, in energy, in the efficiency of our buildings, and waste and water management. So this is the other half, extremely important. And last but not least, it's what we can do further with our social partners, with the NGOs that we are working on.
Alua, please, how it is for Rompetrol?
For us, we started to look where we stand now as a traditional oil and gas player, and where we want to see ourselves in 2030 and 2050. So for now, we are in a journey to become diversified downstream player, meaning starting our operations in renewable energy generation and other directions, and by 2030 to become energy provider, to provide sustainable energy, and by 2050, as many players are assuming this ambitious target, to become carbon neutral. So for us, it means basically to try to reduce impact of our operations to the environment, to reduce scope 3 emissions for our clients, and as Răzvan said as well, to contribute to capturing of existing emissions through the CSR initiatives of planting projects.
And Răzvan, how did the Signify approach this process?
As I said, we tackled some pillars, let's say. One was energy efficiency, as I said. We look on all our sites, industrial and non-industrial, I mean offices, and we really start to replace the lights, with LED. That is one of the, I think, best efficiency ever. It's up to 90%. You reduce the electricity bill. And then we include also automation. We involved also other partners like HVAC and others in order to have the most reduced energy consumption in this area. Then we moved on this, as I said, and this is also like it should be embedded in the strategy. So you have to change the contracts. You don't buy electricity from a normal company, you buy electricity that is renewable. In this case, you gain carbon footprint or certificates. And this is also very important for us because it's also how to invest in this, let's say, reducing the carbon footprint. What we did more, it's also we look on our sites and we start to consider how to reduce the fuel or the fuel that is needed for the transport. And we started even to compact and put together more, let's say, facilities or warehouses in order to reduce really the transport costs. This is a lot. Transport costs a lot, let's say, in this world. And maybe in the end, we also use more on this CSR and yes, as any multinational should have even a KPI for that. We started to do reforestation. We do solar lighting off grid, for different areas in the world. And also we try to cut as much as we can, and we have also a deadline until end of the year to reduce all the plastic material in the packaging of the B2C consumer products.
I will come back to Alexandra because here in Romania, energy transition means synchronizing public and private sectors. What does sustainability means for ING Bank's clients and workers and for whole group?
For the whole environment.
Yes, for all of us.
Indeed, it's we need to act together, and it's not just a phrase. We really need to act together in order to achieve.
And it's not only a trend.
And it's not only a trend, as we were discussing earlier. Let's take each of the groups. For a corporate client, as we are today, absolutely normal. It's about making the investments that count for future, that are in line on one hand with the sustainability strategies, on the other hand with the global ambitions per sector, as I was mentioning. So here it's about finding the right products and the right financing for these actors, and on the other hand help them with benefits all around the way, the transition. For the smaller companies, it's a mix. On one hand, for I'm saying it's a mix because here is where the awareness needs to start, and it is a big theme for us, and I think that for every company, it's about how we make sure that we do our part in informing our clients on what is important, what sustainability means for that company, what changes can they make, how they can be efficient, how sustainability can be an opportunity for them, because we are talking about regulations, we are talking about restrictions, but this topic can come with opportunities, especially for this segment of small companies and medium companies. So here we need to find the balance, and it's our theme, as I said, our task. We need to find a balance between informing and giving the right information, but on the other hand, financing. And here my colleagues have set, for instance, this year locally a framework for each transaction, to track each transaction. And on the other hand, they have issued already 80 million euros in financing simply for this group. While for the other part, for the retail clients, for any customer, as I was for ING for quite a while before I became employee, it's about finding the green alternatives in products. And this can mean from a virtual card to offering recycled plastic cards, if your option is still to go with the physical aspect, loans and more of this.
Răzvan, because you talked here about history and about targets and about what Signify means today, what is the most important advice that you can give to partners, clients, to achieve the same results as you did, as Signify did?
Well, as I'm looking back also what we did, because this comes from the experience, we don't want to invent something. First of all, as I said, it's important to embed the environmental part in the strategy. And not only, just saying and make a nice word that we will embed, no, but introduce this in KPIs. And this should be cascaded from CEO down to the key account manager. In the end, if somebody has a KPI, we'll follow it. Otherwise, it will not happen. And in my opinion, this a company should do to have a clear, let's say, direction. For instance, we give examples for us. It's not only we had standard targets of selling lights, but we said no, we will say connected. We will sell connected lights. That means automation means actually reduction of more energy bill. Yeah? And also we said we have to sell more solar. Yeah, this kind of these are small things that maybe down to the ground, on the people on the ground, can do something about it. Yeah? Another point is that, as I said, energy efficiency. This is the cheapest energy. Yeah? The one that you save. Make an assessment of the site. Use a consultant, and they will tell you what to do. You should replace, I don't know, maybe lights with a big company, Philips or not, I don't know, or other. You can also do automation of the building. Go to buildings that already have this BREEAM or LEED certificates, because this is also a next step. Yeah? And look also on your on electricity bill. For sure, it can be a consultant can find a lot of things to reduce. If I go a bit further, it's important to really also team up with companies who are also having the same aim. Because alone it's one thing, we have a strategy, but actually if you team up and you create a company, or let's say an NGO or company that can follow this at higher levels and also can give some direction and advices, this is also much valuable and much strong. As I mentioned, one company, several companies give a much stronger message, and this is also something that we recommend to, let's say, unite together and give some, let's say, stronger message to the authorities and others.
Alua, what are the assets that Rompetrol has, and also what are the main challenges for you?
Here, basically, demand for energy, it will grow. We all can agree, and it's the matter of changing the sources. We are operating the largest refinery in Romania. And on the one hand, we understand that the demand for fuel, it will continue to grow in the midterm until 2035, including for aviation fuel. So here we ought to provide this fuel to ensure energy security of Romania. But on the other hand, yes, we have a challenge to reduce our impact. But here, Petromedia refinery is one of the most efficient refineries in the region. But still we are working on continuous improvement in terms of energy efficiency to reduce our impact. So when we started developing the decarbonization strategy, this was the very first step to assess how we can optimize current assets to reduce our emissions. So here, apart from improvements on the refineries and starting the production of biofuels to use sustainable feedstock, also we considered the CCS solution, because that's for now the only technology that can allow drastically reduce CO2 emissions. So we are assessing this technology as well. So challenges here is to maintain supply fuel, but on the other hand to start decarbonizing them through production of biofuels of new generation to meet requirements of potentially RED 2 and RED 3, and going forward to be able to produce SAF for clients like KLM maybe. So here it's about the balance at the moment to keep our current business going, to supply fuels to our customers, and to reduce our impact, and with the view of the future.
And also, Răzvan, what is your engagement for environment? And you said about CO2 reduction emissions.
We have serious engagements. I don't want to use many figures, but some percentages or some targets I should mention.
I think it's important, yes.
I should mention. So as we are approaching the year 2030, it's, let's say, the first milestone. And until then, we should have reduced the CO2 emissions by 30% per passenger and per kilometer compared with the year 2019, which was the maximum in the air traffic. the first question was what steps we did, and I can mention that yes, this is the target to reduce in 11 years between 2019 and 2030 by 30%, but we already reduced by 6% between 2005 and 2019 the emission of with that small steps, using a more efficient fleet and so on. Then, of course, using this sustainable aviation fuel, which seems to be the way to proceed, the way to go further. First, it has to be produced from biomass, not being in conflict with food production like it was 10, 15 years ago when biofuel production started. So it has to be clean. It's very simple from the chemical point of view to be blended with the actual fuel, and the target is to reduce the emissions by 75%. Not only the direct emission, but only during the process of production, because we are using biomass, used cooking oil, wood waste, agricultural waste. So things that contributed to attracting and to removing the CO2 from the atmosphere. Then renewing the fleet. It's a major project. It's what it started, and it's a continuous process of renewing the fleet. We aim to buy and to bring in our fleet the most fuel efficient aircraft, and of course the technology made giant leaps, giant steps ahead. So now we can count for the new generation of aircraft of fuel consumption reduced by 25 to 30%, and of course, as a consequence, also the CO2 emissions. Not in the last as importance, the piloting technique, so-called eco-piloting. It should be responsible for another 2 or 3% of reducing of CO2. You see, might be small drops, but finally, at the end of the day, a sea is made by drops. So, on each and every department, if we are going further, if we are progressing, if we are open to the new technologies, if we are encouraging the new technologies, and I can mention a lot of projects in which the airlines are implied for developing new way of flying, new types, new shapes of aircraft, and so on. SAF, this alternative for the fossil fuel should now it's used less than 1%. So imagine how far are we from a larger usage of the SAF. The aim for this year is 1%, but by 2030 we want to reach at 10%. It's a huge effort. It costs a lot of money. It's very expensive, the process of obtaining the sustainable aviation fuel. But we need to do these efforts if we want that our children and our nephews enjoy traveling by plane and enjoy the life we had.
And I want to talk about authorities. Alua and Răzvan, I have a question for both of you. What are the expectations from Romanian authorities? What are your expectations, not only ours?
Well, I think naturally authorities' expectations are for us to act, to implement projects, that will contribute, I mean, from us as an energy company to
And also
contribute
energy transition, yes.
energy transition, but as well as to ensure enough of supply of energy in variety forms and now in sustainable. By implementing these projects to contribute to tax revenues, creating new jobs, it's very important.
And this is how they can help.
Actually, yes. One direction, I think, is through financial supports, EU funds or state aids, which contribute to implementation of such projects. For authorities to provide clear and transparent guidelines and to make these funds available, such as modernization fund or just transition operational programs, which we are waiting for support, because most of the innovative projects in decarbonization at the moment, they are not economically viable. So here it would be very good to have some support. In terms of energy, the modernization of transportation lines, I think now a lot of energy producers are facing this problem where you want to implement projects, but the lines, transmission lines, they're not able to admit any more energies in some regions. So this is the problem. And another thing, I would say, people. So decarbonization requires new capabilities in terms of workforce. So here,
Changing mentalities, maybe?
changing mentalities, yeah, because this change, this shift, it's new for all of us. So
And we have to adapt.
we have to.
Also,
adapt.
Răzvan, what's your point of view about the authorities? What can be done?
I will build up of what I said. Mainly, we are focusing also on these famous funds, yeah, that are coming. And I'm not talking only about Green Deal and others. So, what we recommend and expect actually from the government, I'm talking about government, but also local authorities, because we are talking about also mayors and cities and smart cities, to continue what they started. Because actually we have started, Romania, if you are talking about this National Recovery and Resilience Plan, is the second country in the world who receive, or in Europe, who receive this big amount of funds, and we should actually start to absorb. Of course, process started, but now we have to have clear guidance how to really take the money and use them. And the time frame is quite limited. We have 2 years to really start the projects and also to start the financing, and then another 4 years to close it. So it's not, let's say, it's not a long time in this. Also, we should also think about that there's not only this Green Deal, it's also, we're talking about other funds, local funds. The Environment Ministerium has this AFM. Also, this is also focusing on bringing more efficiency on the lighting of the cities. So all these, let's say, steps that I see that started, they are visible, they should really follow. Also with specialists, I see also a bit of sometimes lack of specialists. And yeah, again, it's about really of learning and experience these new things.
It's hard to find these specialists.
Yes, exactly. And in my opinion, the right direction started, but now it must be follow up and let's say, and applied. Yeah.
Alexandra, we talked about strategies, company strategy, government strategy, and we need to have a clean economy, circular economy, but what does this mean for you, for ING? Let's explain a little bit this concept, clean and maybe circular economy.
I'm happy you asked that, because I was thinking earlier when Răzvan was mentioning about strategies, and maybe it's just a word that we put on a presentation.
So used.
So used, and again,
yes.
a trend. And yes, it is. What we hear today is sustainability. It's important, very important. We are doing it. Follow us for more. Something like this. And a thing that we don't like, but we need to do it, is to measure. And all the process of reporting, all the disclosure, all the transparency come in fact with a reflection on the reality. And this is where you will find where your biggest impact is. For instance, this is how you build actually the strategy. This is how you know what to observe, what to change in environmental program, as I was mentioning earlier. By measuring and looking, and of course it's a process, you will not measure everything today. You will have so many questions. But when we started to look at how are we using the energy, obviously we transition to 100% renewable energy in our buildings. This year, for instance, we had a surprise with the waste management in our building. Again, you know exactly what steps to take. So the first and foremost, most important thing, both for companies and government, I would say, is to know your reality, know your figures, know your context, and then you accept it. Understand that we will not live anytime soon in a perfect world. You will still have things to fix. There will be other aspects where you will not be able to stop and to reduce it to become zero emissions, but know your reality. And I would say here is where we still lack clarity on what are the climate scenarios for Romania, how the things will change in the next years, and how all the policies can support every actor in this transition.
Alua and also Răzvan, you both said something about changing mentalities. It is hard to change mentalities here in Romania. Is your experience?
If we are referring, let's say, to the let's say companies or areas where we encountered in the lighting industry, as I said, I see a lot of good steps done. So I see more and more specialists. I see mayors who really did a lot of things and they want to do more.
But from common people also?
Again, if you go now to consumer, because it's for us, this means, let's say,
yes.
the normal world, the people that are, let's say, living, we see clearly, and especially after 2020, maybe also this pandemic give us some thoughts food for thoughts. Yeah, we saw a big increase of investing in houses, in in houses about increasing energy efficiency. This is a clear trend.
So we need more understanding, Alua, no?
Of
the process, the whole process.
Chicken and egg situation. If you provide the conditions for people to be more sustainably cautious, such as waste recycling, to have the separated trash bins to ensure recycling, for electrical vehicles to ensure enough infrastructure for it to be convenient. Now also the unfortunate events and which led to the significant increase in energy prices, right? It's also basically encourages physical persons to install solar panels to optimize on the consumption. So basically to make them more consumable, conscious, I would say. But for example, at our corporate level, again, this is the shift, this is the change. You need to admit it, adapt to it, and we also, as Răzvan said, incorporated in our corporate KPIs and then cascaded to all levels so that people will feel responsibility as well as motivation to develop in this direction, to deliver actually towards the targets that we have.
Also, Răzvan, you talked a lot about aviation and this whole process, but clients, because they are the final consumers, they are more open-minded when you talk about sustainability and that they can travel more green or maybe more efficient. Yes and no.
Yes and no. It's hardly to measure. It's hardly to say exactly that it was a change in mentality, but somehow we are helping them. For example, with the paid baggage. It's obvious that more baggages we are taking on board, more fuel consumption and more CO2 emissions will happen. Then, in order to award the passengers traveling light, we introduced for some fares we excluded from the fare the baggage because not everyone need it. So it's a little award for those traveling light, and we want passengers to travel as light as possible in order to reduce our fuel consumptions and to reduce the CO2 consumption. I'm not surprised that I hear from my colleagues almost the same preoccupation, almost the same action about a society more responsible. Yes, of course, we need, and this is part of the indirect emissions, so not what it's taken out by flying, by the aircraft engine, but what all we can do to reduce our carbon footprint. Using the electric vehicles, for example, a more responsible way to travel. For example, going to the airport to take a plane. If you are using your car, you are polluting. We all are polluting when we are using our cars, mostly if we are driving alone and so on. So there are, again, small things, small drops in a huge sea that we can do. But this is, let's say, more impactful. Traveling light, traveling if it's really needed. 2-3 years almost already. 3 years ago, it was the 100th anniversary of KLM. It's the oldest airline still operating under the same name. And it was an advertising film, Flying Responsibly. And there it was a very bold question. Do you really need to travel? Which was taken by some critics. Hey, but this is your business. You are doing money from this. You are asking your customers, hey, you really. But it's true. Do we really need to fly? Can we have an alternative instead, just in order to be, as a society, as individual and as a society, more responsible? Maybe for short distance, the train. And again, speaking about the countries, might be not a good example, Romania, but Air France, it's based in France, KLM in the Netherlands, and there the trains and comfortable and high-speed trains are a reality. Hopefully, also for us, but as well as I do that, there are some difficulties, some obstacles in front of us. But yes, train it's a viable alternative, at least for short distances.
And I asked about authorities. What do you think Romanian authorities should do? Hard question, I know.
It's very hard. This is a very it's a very difficult subject to be tackled in Romania, with all the regrets I'm saying, because we see around us that sustainability, it's not a top national priority, from the waste management, from everything, from cities which are absolutely not functional. I like to walk, I like to bike. It's quite hard to do this at least in Bucharest and so on, because these are also small contributions that we are asking to our teams and to our collaborators to use less the cars, of course, where and if possible. And we know that sometimes it's very hard.
So it has to be, first of all, a priority.
It has to be a national priority,
the starting point.
And we are fully
and I think
on
that
this side.
All agree.
Absolutely,
all agree.
Absolutely. We are doing our small steps. Still, we are polluting. We know, but people need to fly. So nothing to do so far. But investing in new technologies, investing in more efficient fuel burning machines and so on.
Also, Alua, you said a little bit about private sector and what supports private sector for the decarbonization process, because this is also important, and I asked Alexandra about this synchronizing private and public sector, and it's important to do so.
Well, as I said, some, let's say, clarity and transparency in terms of funding that is coming from European Union, as well as some national programs, for the support measures to be to be implemented.
Also priority.
Yeah,
this has to be a priority.
As well as, I don't know. In terms of policies and procedures, we see, for example, on implementation level,
more simplified,
a lot of,
maybe
requirements and bureaucracy. Let's say for the installation of EV chargers, for example, you can spend months and months to obtain all sorts of permits, construction permit. So any improvements in this direction would definitely help.
Yes, no, please continue. Please continue. I think it's something else, but it's no problem for us. Please, Alua. Sorry.
So yeah, things like this to facilitate us progressing further without being stuck on some paperwork, that would be helpful for the private sector.
Alexandra, we talked about green economy and circular economy. 3 advices or maybe 3 steps that ING Bank can explain or show to us. What can we do as a financial top business leader, maybe?
I wouldn't dare to give advice because, as you saw, really each sector has its very clear and big challenges. And we talk about small drops. No, I will not give advice because most probably I will be able to give Răzvan an advice about the small drop, while our focus needs to be on the big drops and what we can really do, and can.
Or maybe we can have both of them.
We will have both of them. That's for sure. Talking about proof points at the end of the day, I was briefly mentioning about the physical, the retail clients we have, the retail customers. Over there, we see an increased interest also for the products. We have launched last year the loan for hybrid and electric cars, electric vehicles. This year, it will be complemented with a solution for housing, for sustainable housing, and people are expecting this. The investments, so green investments, green mutual funds. Again, people want to make sure that their savings are invested in a sustainable company, although I know we use this term more and more. And on the other hand, as I was saying, cards. Okay, cards are everywhere. It's part of our business. We give the alternative. We give the alternative for recycled plastic cards, and it's a transition that we're making this year. But on the other hand, you have the virtual cards. So this would be one. On the other hand, I was mentioning that there are approach, and I think many proof points can be found in the recent report that we have published this week on ING Group's evolution, both on the operational part of on the impact of our operations, but also on how we finance and climate risk, how we tackle climate risk.
What's your future strategy when you talk about sustainability? Maybe Răzvan, you could start.
Definitely, we should continue investing
on short terms or also on long terms.
On both short term
Yes.
and long terms, we will invest in renewing the fleet. By 2028, we forecast to have 64% of the aircraft new generation. So this will mean a lot of fuel consumption reduction and of course emissions. Full focus it's on the sustainable aviation fuel. Everyone can contribute. We launched for corporate because the audience it's represented by corporate here. It's very interesting. Everyone can contribute in helping the research and development of this vital field. And then again, new techniques for piloting. This is developing.
This is very interesting.
Yes, it's very interesting.
For pilots, yes.
For example, a plane flies. It's in the air,
Yes.
but most of the time, but it has to arrive there. So he is doing his taxi. So he's on the runway, and might be, for sure, it happened that you stayed even half an hour with,
At least, yes,
with the engines on and going here and there to the departure point and so on. So why not using only one engine instead of two? It's an estimate for a wide body, for an Airbus 350, that this technique, which is so simple.
And it can be done right now.
Absolutely,
From now.
It is done.
It is done.
It's reducing 700 kilograms of fuel. So a huge amount which was wasted anyway. Then using electricity instead of fuel powered machines for starting the engines of the airplanes. Optimizing the flying paths, the trajectories, between the origin and the destination. There are software which indicates that indicate to the pilots the optimum way to be flown in a certain interval, taking into consideration the weather, the climate, and so on.
It's a digitalization project also.
Yes.
Combines.
Yeah. So we are fully open to the new techniques. KLM is involved in a very nice project of developing a totally brand new shaped airplane. It's a V plane. Everything will happen in. It's practically a flying wing. It's developed in University of Delft in the Netherlands. Maybe the aircraft of the future will not look like this, but it shows our involvement and our readiness to and our openness towards this. So finally, again, although we are not the biggest polluters of the world, we are in the spotlight. Flying, it's something very nice,
especially
yes.
this summer, yes.
And that's why it's not anymore sustainable. It's not anymore a choice, but it's something necessary. It's a necessity that we should follow very close.
Also about future strategy, Răzvan, please, the other Răzvan, Răzvan Copoiu, for Signify in the future, so also short and long term.
As I said, we reach a very important milestone for us in 2020, and we will not stop there. So we will continue to do all these things, yeah. So still having renewable energy as a contract, still trying to reduce the energy consumption of the buildings and everything, yeah, including factories and transportation, logistics costs, everything. What we want to bring on top of this, it's also there are, let's say, three major pillars. One is we will try to be as close as possible with this climate action. Meaning, as an example, we made a feasibility study for the entire Europe, for the countries that are inside this recovery and resilience plan. We identified the need of how much can be, let's say, implemented as energy efficiency for lighting. And this we put also on all the governments, for Romania, but also other countries, and we give this, and we are the consultants in different countries. Second, we invest in new technologies that are more fit to green, to things that are, let's say, close to the...
From producing to...
Exactly.
Consuming.
So yes, we start from production, like we introduce also a new energy efficiency light bulb LED that is 60% less consumption than any other LED. You know, can you imagine? So if you reduce with 80% and then another 60%, we made a calculation actually, and we reduced the electricity bill per year, like can be less than 50 RON for a house. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. It's of course investments, but then also return of investment is very important to be calculated. Yes, no, I'm not joking. With these new electricity prices, the payoff can be even within a year. So this is one thing of technology. What we do is even more. So we focus our business, our new business, in food availability. So we created Romania. It's at the beginning. You will hear soon from TV that we have a very important partnership with a company who produce.
We will be the first.
Yes, we will have exclusivity. Maybe I have to talk with the partner as well to produce this in-house, let's say, food. Yeah, that can they have a lot of advantages. I'm not in this business, I'm just providing the light that actually makes the harvest much faster. You can do 5 harvests in the time of one normal one.
Oh.
So you produce 5 times more food with the same, let's say, harvest, how it's called. Yeah? So this is also, and this is also done in the entire world, but we will also have examples in Romania, yes. Also, we will invest in circular economy and recycling. That means now companies who have UN KPIs for that, they can, let's say, order a specific luminaire that is not a normal one, but it's used entirely, it's made entirely by recycled plastic. And there's also a full 100% recycling of the envelope, for instance. This is very important as well. And if you go further, we also have in this more security call, because the lights now are, as I said, automated. So now you can bring in the, I'm talking not only the city, but also in the house, you can light up and down, also for the energy efficiency, but also for the safety. Yeah. So if there are more people on the streets in the night, it's more light. This kind of things. And I will close, for instance, with an example that also for the future, we and I also personally strongly believe that solar will also bring, photovoltaic can bring a lot of, let's say, independency and autonomy, with even from consumer, but up to I saw factories that are putting now on the panels, and we are also introducing this in the market, the light, street light with the panel that can be, at least in Romania and for warmer countries much more, 3, or let's say, I'm thinking with 3 quarters
seasons
of the year,
yes.
3 seasons without energy need, yeah, only fully independent. So these things, little by little, will bring more and more or less energy consumption, and this is our aim.
Alua, for Rompetrol, what's the strategy? Because it was the keyword here in this meeting for the future.
Now, at the moment, we are implementing the project of cogeneration plant in Navadar. It will be working on, let's say, transitional fuel of natural gas, providing electricity to our refinery as well as for the grid, and as well as the heat for the city of Navadar. So in our pipeline, we also have projects in renewable energy, as well for our own consumption, as well as commercially scale projects, production of second generation biofuels to allow our clients and fleets to decarbonize. Either it would be through e-mobility by providing ultra-fast charging infrastructure, or to use more of the biofuels, and in the long term the SAF, aviation fuel for the airlines, which is very important. And yeah, as I said, e-mobility, because we understand this is trend. There is a growing demand. This year in Romania, it was the highest percentage in Europe of the growth of newly registered electrical vehicles. It's more than 400% growth. So we see this trend accelerating, and we are making a bet in this direction. So these are 4 main directions in which we are hoping to implement our project.
We will start shortly a Q&A session, but I want to ask Alexandra the same thing about sustainability strategy for the future.
Financing all the effective good idea. Kidding, not kidding.
It's true.
Our focus will remain on financing and really providing the means to set this transition for our clients. So definitely this will be in the spotlight in the next years. Of course, there are targets on this, on each sector, on the environmental program with the operations footprint. Again, we have targets and intermediate targets with 2030. But in a nutshell, I would say this will be the focus. I would go and make a side note in relation to what my colleagues mentioned earlier with the KPIs and the foundation. It was a very good lesson for us this year when we really embedded the strategy, as everyone has the strategy, or the vision, in the top management agenda. And having a strong governance, it's not simply a word, it's not simply setting a committee that gathers every month and discuss about this, but for real, this puts the topic on the agenda, creates synergies between different business lines, and at the end of the day, this will push the decisions. So I would also say embedding in the business is a continuous part, and we will continue with that, obviously. And last but not least, the big task for us again is how to make sure that we offer our clients the relevant information for their industry, so they can take the right decision.
If there are so many questions from the audience here, or maybe from the audience online, don't be shy. Please.
One question here. So I heard some talks about introducing new KPIs inside the company to measure how green or how much carbon you reduce. Working in analytics, one big problem with KPIs is how you record the data. So do you have some strategies in recording the data, or how are you calculating those KPIs? Where does the data for them come from? This is a question for everybody.
But yes, maybe Alexandra or Răzvan. Okay, Alexandra, please answer.
Of ING and how we are looking at our own footprint operations, the footprint of our operations. So you're having the example, you're having the themes, for instance, waste and water, and you're looking at the invoices, you're looking at the quantity of the residual waste you're generating or the plastic that you are recycling. Those data are added in a tool, a digital tool, in our case is Sfera. Based on each data, you have the calculations that follow the green gas protocol, green gas emissions protocol. And here you have the amount of CO2 emissions per scope 1, 2, and 3. Based on that, looking at where the world needs to go, you say, okay, in the environmental program, in our case, we will have these KPIs. And here is how you have it on one hand, how you are embedding them on different business lines, because obviously the energy consumption will be in one area of the business, and they can change contracts, they can negotiate with suppliers for that. And you still have, after that, you have the internal controls to make sure that you have the right data and everything is reliable. So this is an example on
and
our
maybe
side.
for you, Răzvan, and for also Răzvan, Signify.
So there, actually, what I said also in the beginning, there were actually, if you're now counting two KPIs more, let's say. One is exactly the one that you measure your carbon footprint, and it's a bit similar. So really, in the end, you have to translate in this energy efficiency how much energy it's less consumed. You transform in carbon certificates, and then you calculate, let's say, the footprint of the company. And there is not like Signify way of doing it. It's also, I think, it's more general. I think also international NGOs can also calculate that. Second, as I said, also we have KPIs internally in the company for the people to promote the technologies that can bring better efficiency and better or smaller carbon footprint. And these are also embedded in our sales incentive, for instance. Yeah. So these are, let's say, the two things.
If you want, Răzvan, to complete
we don't have
the answer.
proper KPIs in the Group Air France KLM, but it's important to say that our decarbonization trajectory, it's closely monitored by the scientific-based target initiative. So this is a body, United Nations, it's in World Wildlife Fund, it's there, and other prestigious bodies in the world. So it's not that we dreamed the 30% reduction till 2030, but are reachable targets if we are doing right what we planned according to SBTi.
And I would add, if you are interested in a sector per se, there is the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, which has templates and clear questions for multiple sectors. So you have the general assessment, but you can also look per sectors and measure what matters at the end of the day.
Please, we have one more question from the
I have
audience
one
here.
question related with the indirect impact. Răzvan mentioned something with dealing with their partners, their customers. And the question is for all of you, how do you think to procure the services or the products from your providers. And if you, maybe in the procurement procedure, if you are looking on the green maybe criterias or how you are comparing two providers. One maybe is more green than other, but maybe more the cost is higher than other. And if you have some similar maybe experience sharing with us, the procurement procedure strategies at the level of your companies or at the level of the group.
And I think it's for all of them.
For all of them, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, of course,
Răzvan.
I'm not
You
a
first.
specialist in procurement, but definitely this is an extremely important criteria. For example, for the catering on board, we are trying for sustainable sources, local sources, trying to, and of course there is a process of assessment, a process of comparing, doing duly done by our procurement service. This is a commitment, sustainability. It's our commitment, and of course we want to transfer this. And of course we cannot act otherwise in regard with our partners. Although the level of carbon emission it's much lower on their side, but we want to have partners that are sharing the same values and the same vision for the future with us. And catering, I think, is the best example because it's as much as possible
Close to the customer, yes,
yeah,
also.
and it's what we got on board. And
Of course. Alexandra, please.
You're
How it's for
tackling
you,
one
for
of
ING?
the key questions we also have. Because honestly, and it is a team, and we do have conversations on, okay, you have a base. Definitely you have a base. You have a few questions during the process of procurement in order to ensure that the social side is well addressed and there is no harm on that area. But right now we don't think is the most effective, and we are looking at the ways in which we can reach that moment where you were mentioning. If I'm having two suppliers and one has the better price but the other has the better sustainable option, how are we measuring, how are we evaluating this? And it is a big, please.
All of the companies, okay, this is a general discussion, we'll combine. But I would like to see in your procurement announcement, I will look maybe 10% allocate on this issue. I represent here an NGO that we try to move ahead with this concept of social and green procurements. That's meaning bringing in the criteria mentioned by the contractor, very explicitly this issue, and also maybe to educate them, maybe because at the beginning all these small entities don't know how to fit in different strategies, and you as a big companies maybe can educate them, change this process of doing the business in order to indirect achieve the indicators. Otherwise, we are looking now at the big companies that they are mainly focused on money. Okay, and internally we have a lot of policies, and most of them in the CSR's department and the CSR bureau, and not on all the departments. But in terms of how we are making the business, putting this type of clauses on choosing the contractors, it's more like theory and.
It's not necessarily theory. It exists, and it's easy to put 2 extra criterias in a contract. It's easy to say, I expect you to do this. But is it effective? At what we're looking at, where we are now, and why this is a big theme for us, is because we need to educate, as you say, and support. And here, yes, we are super open if you have an option here or you see a solution. Because in theory, it's super easy. Again, it's extremely easy to say, okay, from now on I need...
First of all, try to evaluate and communicate also. It's a matter of sharing the experience and this chapter and manual of CSR strategy. I would like to see in the future this type of how you choose our partners close to our values in terms of energy, but also I'm looking on the social impact, because we can create an impact in society, not only looking at the energy and at the green, but also on in the social impact, meaning people, workers, communities, health.
Please, Alua, what's your experience? No, it's no problem.
I think here,
It's okay.
education should be the main priority, and from the procurement side, I think it's a good idea to incentivize suppliers from the industries which are not the part of ETS scheme or not the usual suspects in terms of emissions or something like that, to incentivize them to be more sustainable. Again, I'm not a procurement specialist, but I know for sure that this is one of the criteria, but I will not be able to answer how it is considered for certain materials or services. I'm sure there are, let's say, the different questions and criteria, but it is definitely part of the procurement process.
But I think that you said that it's important to be something more than something written on the paper, and just like this, it has to be applied for all of them. Yes, I think that this is the main idea. Răzvan, please, also short answer. But
a lot of things have been said on this already from
yes.
colleagues, but I will add maybe two of them. First of all, just an example, not necessarily to the factory supplier, but also the services supplier. Yeah? So when we want to, our offices, let's say, we have this trend since few years that we will move only to buildings that have BREEAM or LEED certification. And this also makes them want to be better. And I see more and more. This is in the last years, really, we see more and more certification. This is one example. Also, if I'm looking on the, let's say, supply chain, I will add more on this, what you said, it's about money. Of course, about money, P&L, etc., no margin, profit, of course. But unfortunately, the last 2 years, it's also about reliability and availability. So we had this nice contract with a very green company, yeah, in the, let's say, Middle East, and then this company increased the price with 400% for silicium. Yeah, what do you do then? Yeah, you say for the country and for we will do this kind of thing. So we had to find another company who had better, let's say, price. So these kind of things, and also availability means that sometimes, and it's not only us, also in the auto industry, there are, let's say, months that we didn't find the product. So then you have to go to emergency case, you know, and you have to find whatever you find in the market.
We have also a question from those who are online for all of you. Have you considered becoming carbon neutral? Besides actual reduction, do you compensate for the emissions? As usual, Răzvan, you're the first.
I wanted to present the ultimate target by 2050 to be carbon neutral, because it's a bit dangerous, the wording. I would say, I would rephrase, yes, the ultimate target is to offset as much as possible our carbon emissions. So lowering, the traffic will increase for sure. Lowering the emissions by using fuel efficient aircraft and sustainable fuel on one hand, and second hand, becoming more and more active in large reforestation projects, as we are now, and everybody can contribute and pay for planting some trees in countries like Colombia, Uganda. Of course, we're speaking about remote places in the world. We are in Romania. Why not here? I can tell you that we, as a local team, we go planting in Prahova district, for example. This will be the second year. It's becoming a tradition. So it's our small contribution to this, to the reforestation of the world. Of course, some trees here in Prahova, but things are happening in other remote places.
Some short answers from you, Alexandra, and after that, Alua and Răzvan.
Offsetting is the last option we have. We have it on the agenda, but if we all offset, then we change the responsibility from one side to the other. So our focus is on reducing, on being more effective, more efficient, and then if for the areas where we cannot do anything else, that there we will have offsets.
Alua, please.
For offsetting, as I said, we do some projects in deforestation as well in Prahova region or in Constanța. But here, in terms of reducing, as I said, CCS would be a good solution, which we assess. At the moment, it's still quite new, very complicated technology, but in the future, we hope to apply it in order to significantly reduce our emissions, and then probably to offset it with deforestations or other maybe technologies that would appear in the nearest future.
And Răzvan?
As we reach carbon neutrality, I will try to give at least a perspective about what we consider. So there are companies who can reach carbon neutrality, and some companies who it's almost impossible due to the nature of their business. Mm-hmm. So it must be really a compensation about this. Yeah. So it's not about every company should be carbon neutral. No, a lot of efforts can be done. Also, we are doing reforestation, but it's something that it should be embedded again in any company's strategy. However, as a conclusion, what means really to offset? Means really to do as much as you can, the best as you can. And some companies can do more, some companies can do less. And the overall, on the average, still, we still have this famous goal of going 1.5 degrees less. Yeah, this is the aim, truly.
If there are some more questions from the audience here, if not, it was a pleasure for me to talk about sustainability, generally speaking, but for decarbonization. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you so much for your experience and for your insights. Thank you also for those who are here, and we also salute again those who are online. Have a good day.